Hello everyone, it's that time again for Buddhism 101. We're going to give people some time here to log in and find our meeting here. We will be doing our usual live feed service today. As people start trickling in, I'll give more specific details and instructions. I think what I might want to do today is just sort of start with a check-in with people. So while we wait here for people to log in, give people a few minutes, feel free to type in how are you doing? How are you feeling? How are you doing with all the outbreak going on outside our doors? It'd be good to check in. While y'all are typing up your answers, I'll have to say, I'll talk a little bit about myself and how I'm doing. I work from home, and so this hasn't been a huge transition for me. Unfortunately, the kiddos have been, I think that's been the biggest challenge, has been homeschooling the kids. But it's also been fun and filled with some very magical moments, seeing them learn about the world around them. Anyone else? How about you? Any thumbs up? Any feedback on how you've been doing these last few weeks? Oh, we're going pretty quiet today. All right, we have a quiet group. Let's go ahead and begin. So today we're going to be doing our regular live stream service. What we've been doing the last few times is we'll do a 10-minute meditation, just sitting meditation. After the 10-minute meditation, I'll give a short Dharma talk. What I promised last week was what we would talk about impermanence. So we'll talk about impermanence. After the discussion, we'll have another meditation. The meditations at the beginning and the meditation at the end will have different purposes. The first meditation is simply to get you into the right frame of mind, to prepare yourself internally, to just slow down, quiet down, become more still, let the water settle, let the mind settle. Prepare yourself then to sort of receive, hopefully, some wisdom and some knowledge regarding Buddhism. So let's talk a little bit about that first meditation. During the first meditation, what I want you to do is to focus on your breath. The focus on the breath is a very ancient form of meditation. It is one of the benefits of doing it is that you carry your breath with you all the time, and so it's easy to pick up. And if you base your practice on the breath, then it makes it a lot easier to do it anywhere, at any time. When you do that, there are a few things you can do. One is to simply focus on the sensation of breathing, how it feels as the breath enters you through your nose, hits the back of your throat, fills your lungs, and expands your diaphragm. And then as you exhale, just the reverse feeling, how it feels as your chest and diaphragm contract, the feeling of the warmth of the air, maybe on the feeling of the air on your lips. Just focus on how it feels to breathe. I was listening to a meditation talk recently, and they made a very interesting point. Different people will notice, or will first notice, one thing primarily as they breathe in and then breathe out. So for example, when I do the breathing sensation, the first sensation I pay attention to the most is the feeling of the air hitting the back of my throat. But it's different for different people. And so it might be interesting to just be mindful of what is it for you. If you do this sensation-focused breathing exercise, what is it for you that catches your attention first as you meditate? So the first technique is simply to focus on the sensation of the breath. The second technique is to count the breath. Count up to 10 breaths, and then start over again. And if you lose count, or you lose concentration, or you stop paying attention, you focus back again on 1. The third technique is to use a gatha or a mantra. And so this is where you repeat a word or a phrase that is meaningful to you. And you repeat it over and over again and synchronize it with your breath. One phrase or one gatha that we use here, or we recommend sometimes, is one developed by Thich Nhat Hanh, a Vietnamese Buddhist, where as you're breathing in your mind, you say, breathing in, I calm my mind. Breathing out, I smile. And put a half smile on your face, what I call a Mona Lisa smile. So breathing in, I calm my mind. Breathing out, I smile. And you simply repeat that over and over again. Inevitably, even when you become a master meditator, you're going to have moments of distraction, moments where you may have difficulty focusing. And that's the practice of mindfulness. That's the practice of meditation, being able to catch yourself, not focusing, not paying attention, and then refocusing on the breath. When you do that, you are practicing mindfulness. And so it's a good thing when that happens. Also, many of us have probably become more mindful of how noisy our houses are, or how noisy things are in our homes. One of the techniques that I have found most helpful whenever there are noises or other distractions around is to use those distractions as a bell, as a reminder to focus on your breath again. And so the same way when I ring this bell next to me, it kind of prepares our mind for meditation and for calming ourselves. Any noises you hear, airplanes, dogs, children, air conditioning turning on, use that as a reminder, as if those noises are telling you focus on your breath. What's really beautiful about this is that then you make the world around you, helpers to your meditation. It's as if the world is trying to help you meditate better. So every time there's a sound, every time there's a sensation that arises, it's the world trying to tell you focus on your breath. You can do this. So it's a really nice reframing, avoids getting angry at these distractions, and deepens our ability to focus on the breath. So that will be our sitting meditation, focused on the breath. After that, the Dharma talk, as I said, we'll be talking about impermanence, Buddhist impermanence, and I will talk a little bit about what that means and how it applies to our life, and how it applies to our life right now during the coronavirus outbreak. The second meditation will be similar to the first in that you will be focusing on the breath, but once you feel centered, once you feel stable, what you want to do is focus that mindfulness and attention on what you learned during the Dharma talk. This will be an opportunity for you to really chew on, to savor, to immerse yourself in the Dharma. Focus on what caught your attention the most. Use Master Thich Quang Tri's technique of the whys if you want to, and just keep asking why. But it's a time for you to use your increased attention and focus to pay attention to what you're trying to tell yourself, what wisdom you're trying to gain, what insights you're trying to make. So the second meditation is more of an experience. Thought can play a role in it, but it should not be the only thing you do. Thought and thinking and cognition can be a wonderful tool, but you also want to experience and immerse yourself and just allow things to be, there is some benefit to just being without thinking, with benefits to just experiencing, just experiencing what's happening inside. So balance thought with experience. Thoughts and thinking can be very noisy and energetic activities, and so sometimes it's good to just calm that down a bit and just sit and be and experience and immerse yourself, marinate in the Dharma. Good. I'll leave it at that. Let's go ahead and get in a comfortable position, in a position where you'll be able to sit for at least 10 minutes or so comfortably, and we'll begin our sitting meditation. Impermanence. Buddha taught that there are three marks of existence. These are three characteristics or three qualities of existence. One is no self, which is I've talked about, it seems like an eternity ago. It is the second mark of existence is dukkha, which roughly translates into suffering, longing, striving. And then the third one is impermanence. And it's that third one that we'll be focusing on today. In Pali, impermanence is anicca. Anytime you see the letter A in front of another syllable, is typically non or no. And then anicca means constant, continuous, permanent. So anicca means not constant, not continuous, not permanent. This idea of impermanence isn't unique to Buddhism. Hinduism had it. And then in Western philosophy, the Greeks, specifically Heraclitus, developed the idea as well. And we see a similar concept in science. So it's not a unique thing to Buddhism. It's simply an observation of the universe. In Buddhism and Hinduism, it's the idea that there is this flow. There is this continuous change. That nothing lasts forever. Nothing stays consistent forever. Nothing is permanent. That things are always in movement, in motion. Things are always changing. In the Western philosophy, if we look at the ancient Greek, Heraclitus described this as when you step into the same river, you never step into the same river twice. So that's a phrase that's attributed to him. The idea is that the river, in its constant flow and its constant motion, never stays the same. And we ourselves are that same way. The universe, anything in existence is the same way. And when we look at science, we see this idea of that the human cells, the body is, all the cells in the human body are replaced every 7 to 10 years. For the most part, yes, we do have some cells that last a lifetime, or if they die, are not replaced. We have other cells that are replaced every 2 to 3 days. We have other cells that are replaced every few years. And when our body dies, we have cells that continue to live on. I think white blood cells will last for about 6 to 8 months after a person dies. Red blood cells, 3 to 4 months. And these are the things that help forensic scientists determine the time of death. So within our own body, the cells are replaced. Cells live different time periods. But the basic idea is there that we're not the same person that we were, or the same body that we were 3 days ago, 3 years ago, 3 decades ago, 3 seconds ago. So who you are now is different from who you are now, which is different from who you are now. And we can continue on and saying that. The idea is, again, that we are in constant flux. We are in constant flow. We are not permanent. If we look at impermanence from the individual perspective, so we talked about the cells in our body that change, but another really good example of that constant change and movement is aging. We start off as a single cell which divides and continuously divides until eventually we form a baby that is born, a baby that grows, becomes a child, becomes a teenager, an adult, eventually grows old, and eventually dies. So we see this impermanence in our very existence. We also see impermanence in our thoughts and our feelings. Imagine what it would be like if you had to think the same thing forever. We wouldn't know what that feels like because our thoughts are constantly changing. And the feelings are the same way. Feelings arise and fall. Our thoughts arise and fall. Our feelings, we may feel frightened one moment and then we're laughing at a meme the next moment. We may be angry at one moment and then shortly after at peace. Feelings are constantly in flux and changing. So feelings are not permanent. Then we can look at a broader perspective. So our families are always changing. Our friends are always changing. In our families, we have we have births, we have deaths, we have sickness, and this changes the family dynamics. The family is always changing. We have friends, some friends that we've had for a long time and some friends that we meet temporarily, know them for a little bit, and we never see them again. So friends change, and even the individual friend themselves. When you go to your class reunions, you'll notice that the image that you had of one person is not who they are at the moment that you see them again 10 years later, 25 years later. Neighborhoods change, cities change, nations change, the world changes, the universe changes. There has never been a moment of permanence in this universe. It has always been changing. Tyrants rise and fall, empires rise and fall. New discoveries lead to new ways of being. And I guarantee you that this social distancing, that this physical distancing that we are creating right now, when we come out of these moments, it will change us. It will change the nation and how we do work and how we interact. How grateful we may be for certain things. There is a hopeful element to impermanence. Because impermanence is a characteristic of this universe and of this world, this COVID-19 outbreak will not last forever. This physical distancing will not last forever. The discomfort you feel will not last forever. The boredom or the anxiety, the uncertainty, it won't last forever. That's one of the benefits of impermanence, is that we have hope that things can change for the better. And we have some influence on that. There are things that we can choose to do that will increase the likelihood of a better outcome, of a better change. And that's only possible because impermanence is inherent in this universe. That means that the enemy you have, the person you dislike, has the potential for change. that means that that quality of yourself that you don't like has the potential to change. That also means that those qualities you do like about other people and yourself have the potential to change. That is part of the implications of impermanence. I've been studying impermanence for a while. And the moment where I realized that I truly had a deeper insight was the day I got a phone call saying that my father was dying or dead. We didn't know at the time when I got the phone call. And it shocked me how instead of grief or a sense of loss, there was peace. Something I had learned along the way about impermanence and no self and dukkha made that event that usually causes great grief and distress a moment that was very different from, or very much like any other event. What I have found as I learn more and more about impermanence is that it's constantly in my mind. Last week, the example I used was every time I step out the door of my house, I'm mindful of the fact that this might be the last time I see my family. And while that might be a morbid thought, what ends up happening is that I am more grateful for having a family. And when I give my children and my wife a kiss, I'm more present. I relish that moment more, knowing that it might be my last. It's realistic. I'm not being pessimistic. It is a real possibility that that might be the last time I see them. And that form of thinking had already developed by the time that my father passed away. I noticed that every time I said goodbye to my father, I gave him a hug and a kiss and an I love you, thinking like this might be the last time. And when it finally was, it was just a confirmation of what I knew all along. That things change, that things are impermanent. Death and birth change their meaning the deeper understanding you get about impermanence. Let me read a quote from Thich Nhat Hanh that I pulled up here on my computer. We have to nourish our insight into impermanence every day. If we do, we will live more deeply, suffer less, enjoy life much more. Living deeply, we will touch the foundation of reality, nirvana, the world of no birth and no death. Touching impermanence deeply, we touch the world beyond permanence and impermanence. We touch the ground of being and see that which we have called being and non-being are just notions. Nothing is ever lost. Nothing is ever gained. If you're just starting your journey on understanding impermanence more deeply, much of this may seem a little foreign. But most likely there's a part of you that kind of is starting to get it, or there's something inside calling, saying, yeah, there's something here. And so I want to encourage you to cultivate that. Pay attention to that little inner voice that's saying there's something here, there's some truth here. And figure it out for yourself. Don't just take my word for it. Don't take the Buddha's word for it. It's important that you question and you figure it out yourself. the practice that I mentioned of sort of always reminding myself that this might be the last time I have with a loved one stemmed from a practice of just looking around me and noticing impermanence. So one thing you could possibly do today during the second meditation that we do here is to simply look around you and notice impermanence, and look inside of you and notice impermanence. Look at the house or the walls around you. Be mindful that the walls weren't always there, and that one day those walls won't be there. Take notice in the flow of air around you. Maybe you have a fan on, and you can notice and be mindful of the fact that the air is constantly moving, and you can feel that motion. It's never in the same place twice. And internally, notice the impermanence of your breath. You're not constantly inhaling, nor are you constantly exhaling, nor are you constantly breathing. There is a pause. There is a moment of hesitation. There is impermanence even in your breath. Start cultivating that. Take some time to do some walking meditation and be mindful of the impermanence. Pay attention to the seasons. Grow a plant. Watch your pets. Think of your past pets. Notice and look at the world around you, your past and your present, and maybe even your future, through the lenses of impermanence. As you cultivate this, I am pretty sure that your experience will be similar to mine, and similar to what Thich Nhat Hanh said here. You will live more deeply, you will suffer less, and you will enjoy life much more. I have found that to be true for me. I have found that true in my life. I am happier. I enjoy it more. I suffer much less. And I relish and I really enjoy and am present for those moments of happiness. At work, when things are going good, like, oh, this is fantastic. Let me enjoy this now because this won't last forever. And so it allows me to be present and really enjoy the praise, or really enjoy the pat on the back, and be present and genuinely and sincerely say thank you. And then when you have those bad moments, when you're sick, when you experience the death of another and you're not quite ready for that, that suffering, that pain is impermanent. It won't last forever. And you have the ability to direct and influence the type of change that comes. That's the beauty of impermanence. That's the hopeful message of impermanence. So let's take the next 10 minutes to ponder, to sit with, to experience impermanence around you, within you. Study impermanence. Learn about impermanence. Observe it for yourself. Never take my word for it. Never take Buddha's word for it. Study it for yourself. Watch it and observe it. So get in a comfortable position. Take note of what words or what ideas I have said today that really struck you, that grabbed your attention. And explore that. Be curious about it. Ask the whys. Sit with it. Experience it. I hope that as you explore impermanence, you too will find what I have found, what many others have found, a deeper appreciation for life, a decreased amount of suffering, and just more joy. In this last meditation, I want to leave you with one final image, something that came to me during the meditation. Recently, my daughter, 7 years old, is learning about telling time using an analog clock. And I had her take her little toy microscope and look at a clock, the minute hand, under the microscope. It shocked her that what seemed to be still under the microscope was constantly moving, one tick every second. And she several times took the microscope off, put it back on, took it off and put it back on. She had a hard time believing that she could not see this movement without the aid of the microscope. And I think that's a good analogy for us. If you take the time to look deeply at impermanence, you will find that those things that you thought were permanent and were always there or will always be there are changing and are impermanent. Thank you very much for spending this time here with me today. I'll stick around in the comments section until about 8ish or a little bit after. So if you have any questions, comments, feel free to make those comments or ask those questions in the comments section of this video. Otherwise, thank you very much. May you find peace. May you find health, happiness, and safety. Thank you very much.